Good afternoon and welcome to the Queen Anne's County Board of Education work session for June 21. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Okay. Get a motion to, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from, okay. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes for the closed session from June 7?
Make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, can we get a motion to approve the minutes from the open session of June 7th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Mrs. Smith.
Good evening, Vice President Bennett, Dr. Salins, board members, and executive team. My name is Jolene Smith. I am the Supervisor of Special Education, and I come to you this evening to present the Special Education Staffing Plan. The development and approval of the staffing plan is in alignment with COMAR 13A 0502 13D, and the procedures and expectations for the staffing plan are outlined by the State Department of Education. The purpose of the staffing plan is to ensure that each LEA is able to provide appropriate and adequate personnel and resources that ensure the provision of a free and appropriate public education for all students with disabilities in their least restrictive environment. So on this slide, you can see all of our 14 schools are represented, and within each box, you can see the overall enrollment for each school at the end of the 22-23 school year, as well as the total enrollment for students with disabilities. The boxes that are blue are our Title I schools, and then our schools that have regional programs are also reflected in parentheses. It indicates how many regional programs we have within each building. A regional program is a program that is designed to provide a higher level of service for some of our students that require additional services that can't be delivered in some of our traditional classrooms. And as such, we're able to provide those more intense service needs within these regional programs. So sometimes our students will have a home school, which is their residence school, but then they have a different service school, which is where they actually receive their services. That doesn't have an impact on the overall percentage of students with disabilities within those buildings that have the regional programs, and that's why you'll see 2 percentage points in those schools with regional programs, because the first percentage is kind of an inflated percentage reflective of those regional programs, whereas the second percentage is a more accurate depiction of what the enrollment percentage would be if the regional program were not there. So our special education programming in the state of Maryland is required to address children birth through 21. So our staffing plan addresses children that participate in our infants and toddlers program, as well as our school age programs, and even addresses our students that are 18 to 21 that are participating in our partnership with Chesapeake College, where they attend instructional programming at Chesapeake College, so that they are participating with kind of same age peers in a more typical and traditional environment. So one of the expectations of the staffing plan on page 11 is that we provide services in a full continuum of service delivery models. So on this slide, I'm illustrating for you that continuum from general education to special education, least restrictive to most restrictive environments. You can see each of the regional program opportunities that are offered within the district and the schools that house those programs, as well as some of the related services. Actually, those are all the related services that we provide. And some of those include include transportation, speech language pathology, counseling services, vocational services, etc. So starting with our youngest population, we're going to start with our infants and toddlers just to kind of give you an overall picture of who we serve and how we do so. So during the 22-23 school year, we were able to provide services to 111 children, and you can see that the largest percentage of representation was our children ages 2 to 3, and those were represented 62.5% of our population. We've seen an increase in our referrals since 2020. We saw a pretty steep incline from 2021 to 2022, and then it's kind of plateaued, but it has continued to be right around that 125 mark. So our infant and toddler team is really kind of rocking and rolling with the number of referrals that are coming in. For our preschool age students, we were able to serve 121 students this year. You can see that 34.7% of the students were provided services through our traditional pre-K service delivery, and the remaining students were provided services either through itinerant, our regional 3-year-old, or our regional 4-year-old blended program. Then we transition to our school age population, and again, this is kind of another representation of the information on the initial slide. You can see that the total enrollment for each school is captured with the red bar, and the special education enrollment is captured by the blue bars. Obviously, the bars are commensurate with one another. As we see the overall enrollment go up, we see a similar reflection in the special education enrollment. If we kind of drill that down and we look at that special education population in isolation, you can see that we've had an increase since 2021 in our overall special education population. We saw the biggest increase in the areas of specific learning disability, multiple disabilities, and also our intellectual disability population. We did see a slight decline in our population of speech and language impairment, as well as developmental delay. Here in Queen Anne's, we really pride ourselves on being a highly inclusive county. So we try to include our students with disabilities with their general education peers whenever it's appropriate to do so. So we really want to strive to meet that 80% or more in the general education setting. So our current year puts us at 83.6%. And so we've kind of ranged anywhere from that 80 to 85% range. I did want to note that we did see a decrease in our percentage of those students participating in separate facilities, which does also include our non-public placements. So what are we going to do moving forward? So we are going to continue to address disproportionality, and we want to do so by really taking a close look at our multi-tiered systems of support or response to intervention. We really want to streamline that process and make it uniform across the district so that we're not seeing pockets of eligibility for particular student groups. We want to make sure that as a whole, we're following really uniform data collection intervals and strategies for implementing those interventions across schools. And we really feel that that will inform that eligibility process and ensure that there's no bias involved in that process. In addition to that, we've worked very hard to dedicate an IEP chairperson to each school. Currently, we have 10 of our 14 schools with a dedicated IEP chairperson. This person is responsible for ensuring compliance, ensuring that the IEPs that are being developed are effective, and also they support our existing special education and co-teaching general education counterparts in terms of co-teaching, implementation, as well as mentoring and coaching. We want to continue to focus on that compliance and the development and implementation of IEPs. We are also looking to implement a progress monitoring component to our functional behavior assessment and behavior intervention plan process, and really develop a closer collaboration between special education and general education through our student services department. to ensure that, again, there is uniformity and kind of consistency in terms of how we're addressing discipline when we're looking at behaviors, as well as the interventions that we're applying to be proactive so that we don't even get to that point. And then finally, we really want to increase the number of special education students that are taking and passing technical skill assessments and or earning an industry recognized credential, because we recognize the power and value that this brings post-secondary after they leave us and go to their next chapter. I am happy to report, though, that about 55% of all high school special education students participate in a CTE course, which is an increase of 50% from last year. We held two very big events this year, and I really want to kind of give kudos to our transition coordinator, Heather Maddie, and also our supervisor of CTE, Adam Tolley, because they really worked collaboratively to make sure that these events take place and they're successful. Our What's Next cross-county conference was held in the fall. We had 53 families participate, and 47% of those families were from Queen Anne's County. We had 15 presenters and 20 vendors, and the purpose of this was really to kind of inform families on the different agencies and opportunities that are available to them once they leave our brick and mortar buildings. And then this spring, we had our Spring Regional Career Expo, which was also a cross-county collaborative with Caroline, Dorchester, Kent, and Talbot counties. This was an inclusive event, so it was open to both special education as well as general education students. We had 161 students registered across counties, and 49 of those were Queen Anne's County students. So we were really happy at the participation that we had there. We do give the opportunity for public input, and we actually encourage and kind of seek that out. We do have our Special Education Citizens Advisory Council, as well as we monitor the Board of Education meetings to kind of listen to community feedback. In addition to that, we meet regularly with staff, administrators, related service providers, and even school assistants to kind of get feedback on caseloads, schedules, what are the needs within the county, so that we can ensure that we are providing the services that are required for our students. We had 98 parent contacts, which was an increase from last year. So we do have our family support network, which includes our family support liaison that is through our infant and toddler side, as well as our family support liaison on our school age side. They are there as a resource for family engagement, as well as a resource for parents to reach out should they have questions or need resources, etc. We do publish 3 newsletters throughout the year that is just kind of chocked full with lots of different opportunities and resources for our families. So at the time of this publication, we did not have the state survey data from MSDE yet, but oftentimes the information that we're getting is going to be lag data anyway. And really what we wanted to see is more timely information on how we're doing. What is the feedback that our parents are providing us? So what we did is we kind of created an internal survey, and I know I spoke to this last year, but we continued it this year. So we poll parents through an internal Google form, and parents respond and give us feedback. This gives us the opportunity, should there be negative feedback, for us to, if the parent indicates they would like us to reach out, to immediately reach out to them and try to rectify or solve any problems that may have arisen. I'm happy to say, and unfortunately because this is not a live presentation, I can't give you the exact percentage, but 83% of the respondents indicated that they felt that they were a welcome and equal member of the team. I believe it was 93% of the respondents said that they felt that the contact was friendly, and 83.3% indicated that they felt that the IEP that was developed was going to be successful for their child. None of the questions had any negative feedback, so there weren't any indications of disagreement or strong disagreement, which we were very pleased about. We are required in the staffing plan to maintain our maintenance of effort to either meet or exceed that. And I will say, thanks to the great partnership that we have with our county commissioners, as well as the input from the state and federal resources, we've been able to not only maintain but exceed that maintenance of effort. And all of that, really speaks to the ability that we have to provide services to our students. We do regularly analyze the staffing numbers, and we look at kind of the ratio of our staff to students, and we look at it from the perspective of infants and toddlers all the way up, so we're not looking at any one particular group when we are analyzing that. And that does also capture child find as well as our parentally placed students that are in private or parochial schools. So for example, we do have a partnership with our private schools where we will provide speech services to those students that are not necessarily in our brick and mortar buildings, but we will provide that kind of in tandem with them. And we have to kind of account for that when we look at our staffing plan as well. So this slide kind of breaks down the special education staffing. You'll see that the biggest chunk of our staff is dedicated towards our special educators as well as our school assistants. That's where the bulk of our attention goes, because we recognize that that is where the power lives. This slide breaks it down a little bit farther by school. It also captures the projected student enrollment compared to the actual, so that we can analyze how far off those projections were from one year to the next. And then we use that information to also kind of project forward what the next year is going to bring in terms of percentage of students with disabilities. And then we take that and we kind of calculate how many staff or teachers that we're going to need within that building to maintain those relatively low caseloads. Here you have our related services, and we do have a partnership with the Midshore Special Education Consortium. We work with 3 other districts where we kind of pool our resources, because we recognize as small counties that we may have a need for a 0.75 that is difficult to hire. But if you partner with another district, it makes it a little bit more feasible to do. So we do secure services that include audiology, occupational therapy, physical therapy, as well as our teachers for the visually impaired and a teacher for the hearing impaired as well. And then outside of that, here within the district, we're able to staff our school psychologists, speech language pathologists, behavior specialists, etc. This particular slide kind of outlines where the funding sources come from in terms of local grant or contracted positions. And I would like to note that our contracted positions have gone down over the past several years as we've been able to secure FTEs within our local or grant funding, and directly hire those staff members, which is always preferred, as Mr. Smith has said, more times than not. Do you have any questions for me?
That was great information. I just have a couple. When you have the littles, the 2s and the 3s, where are you getting most of your referrals from? Like, how do they come onto our radar as needing some extra assistance?
So referrals can come from pediatricians' offices, they can come from parents directly, they can come from daycare providers. So it really can come from any kind of source that feels that this child may need a little extra attention. And then they're referred and then go through a screening process to determine if in fact that we really need to look a little deeper and figure out what exactly is kind of going on.
And I'm sorry, I did not know what the extended IFSP. What is the IFSP on the?
So the IFSP is the individual family service plan, and it's for our students that are not quite school age yet. So once they become 3, they have the opportunity to either go to the school age side of IDEA, or they can stay on an extended option. The extended option, which allows them to stay on that family plan, affords them the opportunity to continue to receive services in the home, as opposed to on the school-based services in the home is not really an option unless you're a home-based or receiving services through home hospital.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have any questions? No. All right.
Okay. Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Hello, Mrs. Towers.
Good evening, Vice President Schiafinelli, Dr. Salins, board members, executive team. My name is Jane Towers, and tonight we bring before you our approved FY24 budget book for your review and reading pleasure. All 63 pages.
And what is that, 860 font? Yes.
Right. So just some items of note here as we kind of take a glance at a couple of the pages. Page 3 is going to be that budget summary that you approved back in March. So that summary is basically your ins and outs, what revenue is coming in, plus and minus, as well as expenditures. So the budget increased overall, the bottom right-hand number of $5,470,761. If we go to the next page, you can see a total of all operating funds. Total of operating funds approved for '24 is $117,774,050. The difference you can see highlighted on page 6 is really going to be from the restricted fund. The restricted fund with grant opportunities with the Maryland Leads was in '23, as well as the Gears. So the decrease we're seeing is in those two grants as a whole. We still have some funds left that we will look to spending out for '24 on those grants, but we brought it in '23.
And that's under the federal,
Yes.
because that's down 63%.
Right.
Now, it's been a tough year with this budget going from ESNR funds and after COVID and all that, but I think you all have done a good job, the board's done a good job, and I want to thank the commissioners too, because 7.5%, they've stepped up.
Yep.
Even at our highest funded thing, the state's up 1.8, federal's down 63, other funding's down 24. Our county has stepped up to make this work for us this year, and it's been tough. But we've met all our needs, and like I said, I want to thank them publicly for that.
I can't, I'd have to ditto that, and it is, this budget is as tight of any budget I've ever seen. We are gonna be seriously holding our breath as we move through. We've tried to do our best to add additional fuel costs in there, but that's definitely a wild card for us. And, it's just tight. I've never seen it, and I anticipate that the next 3 years will be the same as we work through on the blueprint and some concerns with some of the calculations in there. Comp Ed really concerns me for this coming year. And it's not working in the blueprint. That the blueprint's great, it has great intentions, we support it. We know that it's there to enhance and lift our teaching staff and provide opportunities that way, but I have big concerns with the formulas in there. So we need to get that, those formulas did not account for inflation, rising costs and things like that. And the commissioners absolutely stepped up to the plate. And we're gonna continue a good partnership with them and work through next year, but it is a tight budget.
And this is our operating budget. Our other side is our capital budget, which they put a lot of money into our schools,
They have.
our roofs, things like that to maintain our 13 schools.
We have 41 projects on the books, and
Right
a
now.
lot of those right now that are happening under Mr. Pender's leadership are because of the commissioners and their contribution to capital.
I totally second what Dick said about just appreciating what everyone has brought to the table, the extra monies and stuff. And then, of course, the concerns, especially with the blueprint, that yes, we're on board with the concepts behind it, but the funding is a concern. But I have to say, I'm really optimistic because it feels like every year your team comes in with all these wonderful grants that they get and then seek and win. And so hoping for some of
Yeah,
that
we're
in the
gonna
next
we'll
year as
definitely keep
well.
at that for sure.
Thank
Every
you.
day, literally.
Yeah.
So one more item I want to bring to your attention, and that is to kind of piggyback off of the blueprint discussion. You'll start to see in your unrestricted the two different funding categories. So the first one is going to be your summary of
Six.
page 6.
Right.
6, I'm sorry.
That's okay, I just want to make sure they're following.
Or page
Oh,
5.
fine.
It's your revenue summary unrestricted funds. Page 5.
Yeah, yes.
So the first column there, you'll see summary of major state aid programs, state share. So those are the different blueprint buckets that you'll start to see. And we're really going to be restricted to how those funds are utilized. So the foundation base, as Dr. Salins said, is definitely an item of concern because that's where the raises come from. That's where we're supposed to allocate funds to support staff raises. So I won't go on into too much detail, but you also see underneath there, there's a local share piece that we're breaking out between those buckets too as well, coming into 24.
I think this board's done its due diligence on this blueprint thing and trying to meet our expectations. Some of the things didn't go the way we wanted this year as far as how we were categorizing things, but, we're looking forward trying to make this work because it's going to be a cliff coming. And some of these counties, if they're not preparing for it, are going to be in trouble. Like we say, we're tight.
feeling it right now.
And we're, I think done our due diligence as far as looking ahead and saying, here's how we're going to meet it. If the state doesn't agree with us, but, the state tells us what to do and then sits there and says how you're going to fund it, but,
Yes.
But to Jane's point, if you look at under the summary of the major state aid, which is the top one, the state share, you look at the foundation base, you'll see that there's a decrease there. And that's what we were supposed to use to be able to provide our enhancements to salary. And you can see that that base didn't even give a, matter of fact, it was a negative as opposed to any positive monies to be able to fund that enhancement. That's what's broken that we need to really work on. And I can say that I know as a superintendent's organization, we are already starting to our plan of action of what our legislative session is going to look like next year. Where is our push? Who's doing what? What is our plan of action? And the CFOs are right there beside us, making sure that we have a good plan of action as we move into the legislation season.
And the thing is, they're going to go back and say they do $1.5 million next year. That just gets us back to where we were this previous
Exactly.
year. So, you got to make us whole from where we were and then add to it, not sit there and say, oh, we're giving you $1.5 million. Well, you took $1.5 million this year away. That's 2 years and we're still at zero.
We compare it, as I talk with my colleagues, it's like we're working in a recession right now, to be honest with you. Like, that's how we feel every day. We're looking, a lot of my colleagues are looking at laying people off, which we will be next year if we can't be whole. But all the other organizations out there are not, and that's certainly not the intent of the blueprint, is for us to have to lay people off in order to give an enhancement to our staff. So there's some things that we really need to work through. Jane's team across the state is extremely strong, and Jane leads the charge on that on our behalf, and we appreciate that. And certainly in our organization, we're going to continue to fight the battle as well.
And that needs to be with all stakeholders. We have taxpayers, we have commissioners, we got staff, they all got to understand this because there's no money tree and, we got to make this happen. And, if you don't have the money, what are you going to do?
Yeah, it's true. Thank you, Jane, so much.
Thank you.
Very
I
good.
appreciate it.
Yes. Okay.
Bedtime fun.
The HR report, can I get a motion to approve it as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Ms. Passon, okay. On record, it's a lovely color on you, that green.
Good evening, Vice President Bennett and members of the board, Dr. Salins and members of the executive team. For the record, my name is Bridget Passon. I'm the English Language Arts Supervisor for grades 3 through 12. I'm here tonight for my annual request for funding for digital licenses and consumables to support instruction in our middle school ELA classes and in our high school English classes. So I'll start with item number 402, which is for the middle school licenses and consumables. I'm requesting $111,883.53 for the purchase of digital licenses and consumables to support ELA in grades 6 through 8.
Are there any questions, comments?
Before you ask it, there's shipping and handling in here, Helen.
I saw that, thank you, thank you.
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, the motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the middle school digital licenses and consumable textbooks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And my second and final request for the evening is for our high school English courses. So to support those courses, I am asking for $79,526.12 to support the purchase of digital licenses and consumable textbooks for English 1 through English 4.
Any comments, questions? Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the high school English digital licenses and consumables textbooks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank you
summer.
very
Take good
much.
care.
You.
You have a good one.
So good evening once again. Tonight we bring before you an update to Policy 310. The update to Policy 310 is a result of House Bill number 543. In House Bill 543 and recent legislation, it raises a small procurement threshold from $50,000 to $100,000. We are requesting to raise our threshold from $25,000 per invoice to $50,000 per invoice.
I know we had just for everyone, maybe watching, we had a big discussion about this to just, everything has gone up so high that we just need to trust that threshold. We don't need to look at the little stuff. We can look at the bigger pictures, and then you can be more responsive when we have dire issues that come up, as they unfortunately frequently do with some of our, well, as Sid knows, with some of our hardware. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
No, I think
raising
we've
it?
been over this, and I think, that previous policy has long been around. And I think it's proven, and there's a lot of checks and balances with anything being spent in this organization. It's not that, so that doesn't, and if some things come up, I think, at $50,000, you could have an emergency over a holiday, and
yeah.
you just need to get this stuff going, and you get in the chain to be ordered. So
Yeah.
I think this is very prudent of us to change this to 50,000
Yeah,
at the
it
current
doesn't-
time.
Yeah, it doesn't take long to rise to that amount, that's for sure.
Not these days.
No, not these days. Thank you.
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to approve policy 310, procurement of goods and services, to $50,000 per invoice
Second.
without board approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Towers.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Mr. Pender, you were just sorry. Yes, Mr. Pender.
That's fine. No.
All right.
Good evening, Vice President Bennett, Dr. Salins, board members, executive team. For the record, my name is Sid Pender, Chief Operating Officer. I'm filling in for Mr. Josh Combs, our Supervisor of Technology. Tonight, I am seeking approval for the purchase of 600 Dell Chromebook 113100s for kindergarten students. We are currently working on replacing the Chromebooks for all kindergarten students. This device supported for doing assessments and current online curriculum. Pricing and quotes were provided by Data Networks. The purchase is being made through the Intergovernmental Cooperative Purchasing Agreement, specifically through the Maryland Education Enterprise Consortium, using the contract number UMD 972016. The MEEC is the most common vehicle to purchase technology and technology-related items for the school system. Just a little bit about the MEEC. Provides all its members with contracts to efficiently purchase IT hardware, software, technology-related services at outstanding values. Membership to the MEEC is open to the public and private K to 20 institutions, educational institutions, federal institutions, and public libraries in the state. The amount of the purchase is $280,200, and this will be funded through the ESSER 3 and FY23 fund balance. And I would like to point out, as Mr. Smith said earlier, there is no shipping cost associated with this. All right.
Dr. Salins, Mr. Pender, do you guys know, is this equipment going to go home with our students like the older students do? Or is this in classroom only?
To my knowledge, it will be in classroom only. They're using it primarily for iReady instruction and for KRA, which is the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. A lot of those, the littles take the assessments online, but they're not physically online. The teacher actually does a lot of that with, you know what I mean, some anecdotal type of things. But no, to my knowledge, no, that could be wrong. And certainly Dr. Sprankle can follow up with an email just to check in, but to my knowledge, no.
So at this point, with this purchase, does that mean every student in our county has a school-issued laptop now?
A school-issued device.
A school-issued device? Okay.
Well, it's probably nothing that, I
I'm-
know you're just stepping in.
If
but I
it's a
guess I'm
technology
thinking
question, hang on.
Right, so how much time do we think that there's, because I'm kind of the mind of reversal, that I know that there's a lot of studies that show that, and especially at that level, that computers are not the best way to learn, that it's paper,
And that's a good point, but honestly, our teachers do a very good balance.
Okay.
They use these a lot of times too in stations. So the kids go and they have stations that they go to where they might be, at this age, manipulating sand and doing things like that, or letters where they're placing them and matching them with clay. And then they might have one where they're on the iPad or the Chromebooks. And so I think it's part of their rotation in that aspect, and then primarily used for that testing piece of it. So please don't get the impression that, that we have our littles on
Oh, no, that's what I
computers
was
all the
asking.
time.
It's like, what is
No,
that?
it's a good balance. They will use them developmentally appropriately as how we use, that's how our terms that we use. Yeah, a great question, yeah.
And when I was in some classrooms, I think they have banks where they put these things in a cabinet, so they're charged.
They
You know,
do.
They put them back in a.
Charging station.
Charging station, so it's not like this one where you have to plug it in and go home and, they
Yeah.
put them in a bank or a
Little cart.
cabinet and then cart, right?
Yep,
And then
it's
they
a
can-
little charging cart, and they keep them in there, and, and actually, I'm looking right at Dr. Kibler, he's got little, so he knows the program better than any of us probably, that they do use them appropriately, they're not on them all day long.
Yeah, and they have not, in my experience, they haven't brought them home ever. It's just using the class to supplement what the teacher will do instructionally. It is part of their unified arts rotation, so they do have one day a week where they have the dedicated hour for computer lab. So, I mean, they're learning, because technology is going to be a part of their life, so they're learning to navigate.
Yeah, well, I hardly think our kids have a problem knowing how to use a computer at this point.
They do actually get, believe it or not, a lot of them have
Or iPads.
really good navigating, but they don't have the keyboarding skills that's necessary. So that's where that hour comes into play. About half of that time during that hour they're using for building their keyboarding abilities. And then the other half, typically, I think they are trying to really sneak in some social emotional learning as it relates to, that's a good opportunity for us to use this as a vehicle to get to some of those social emotional learning type of activities.
I do have a question about the price. I just purchased the same computer probably 3 months ago, and I paid $270 for the same exact computer. So I'm just, is there another charge for like the support, or
You get a 3-year rotational, and.
did I get what?
Are you gonna get it replaced in 3 years or 4 years, or
Nope, just
Getting
bought
them.
it out. So,
there's
Is
gonna
it-
be a difference?
Do you have the same, do you
It's
have the
the
same memory and the same?
same everything.
Is it really?
That's why I was wondering, is there support or something else that goes with this that?
Well, it does say on here Chromebook, 4G, 32G, 4 years Pro SUP plus WGS. I'm assuming SUP could be support.
You also have the Gumdrop series clamshell.
Which is the case to keep it from being broken.
I have to defer.
I know, it's
I know,
your
I'm
computer.
sorry, I meant-
It's fine.
Well,
Mr.
it
Pender,
does,
the
it says,
guy
thank you for
just-
choosing Dell
And
for tech support visit. I
and
don't
there's a
know.
3-year extended warranty. There's other
Right.
things that go
So
with
it looks like it looks like each device is averaging about $450, and that would include the case as well as the extended warranty as well as the support.
4 years of technical support, limited hardware warranty. There's other things that go with it.
And if we probably dig deep, it's probably loaded with the software that we need necessary for our students to do iReady and things like that.
Correct. Well,
Okay, well, we buy those licenses, so
not for
Yes, but the
already
computer
needing
doesn't
the
come-
software, right.
Just because we buy it, it doesn't mean that computer comes
Comes
loaded
with it.
that way.
Right.
They have to set it up so that when they give it to a child, it's ready to go on our network with our equipment, with our,
Does it have that on there somewhere? Am I missing that where it says the software is going to be preloaded?
I don't know. I said, I'm sure if we.
No, I'm
don't
sorry.
do,
I
but
know, I'm
sure.
not actually asking
Yeah.
Mr. Pender here. I know this is not his thing.
We'll
Okay.
have Carrie,
Okay.
reach out to Josh and have him break down and share with you.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe he could just send us a little summary on what the questions we asked on what's
Yeah,
going on.
exactly, yeah.
Any other comments, questions?
I make a motion, we approve Dell Chromebooks for kindergarten as presented.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I oppose.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That was it. Future meetings and events, we got July 12th, 6 PM for our regular meeting in July, because we skipped the July 5th because of the holiday. And then July 19th for our work session. Is that everybody still okay with that?
Yep.
Okay. I get a motion to.
I make a motion to adjourn and move into a closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.